Welcome to the Kiwimana Bay. Hi there, welcome to episode 58 of our Beekeeping podcast. This week we are talking about wasps, Chinese beekeeping, and swarms, and more swarms.
Coming out of our ears, the swarms are coming out of our ears.
No, out of the sky and landing in fruit trees.
Oh, feels like it's coming out of our ears.
Hi, it's Gary and Margaret here. We are beekeepers from the hills of the Waitakere Ranges in West Auckland, and we are New Zealand's #1 beekeeping podcast, and very happy to be that.
Absolutely, and our podcast is about beekeeping, gardening, and a bit of political issues, about environmental issues as well. And we often go off on tangents.
Who, us? I don't think so.
Well, mainly Margaret.
Oh,
okay. I constantly stick to the show notes.
Yes, of course. I'm a rebel with a cause.
And the show notes are kiwimana.co.nz/58. And thanks for listening to our show. We're really grateful that you've come along today and listening to our show. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for taking time out. That's awesome. And, you know, we really appreciate it. And what is happening at Kiwimana?
Okay, well, we've been catching a lot of swarms. We had our first swarm capture. I think you caught one about a week before me, eh? And we've had a lot of phone calls, and it's been quite unusual because we've picked up a lot of our swarms from one site.
Yeah, we had one call that was for a hive that swarmed from a local apiary, and we managed to get them to go back to the colony. And then that was quite some weeks ago now, eh? That would have been about 4 weeks ago. And then we get our first call from one of our beekeeping friends, and next thing you know, yeah, the joke was, see you tomorrow night.
And it turned out to be true.
It was true.
So we think there must be a commercial apiary near this people's house, because the bees aren't coming from his hives, they're flying over. So there must be a commercial beekeeper, and the bees are finding his back garden very popular, or his and the neighbour's back garden, eh? Yeah,
definitely. He's got a lovely plum tree there, and some other gardens, vegetables, fruit. So it seems to be a sort of a meeting place of all the swarms. So we had one every night last week, so we were getting to bed quite late.
Quite late, so it wasn't doing much newsletter writing or podcast writing, so it's been a hectic time.
Yeah, getting all the gear ready and everything for it. And yes, so our quarantine apiary is absolutely chock-a-block at the moment, and yeah, we're just waiting for them to all start building brood and that we can check them for disease, and then we'll see how they go.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I've been busy building gear. We've been building boxes, haven't we? And you've been building frames. We're trying to get stuff for all the beginner kits all sorted. So that's coming along very soon.
Yes, we've had to order in colonies this year. So we are building the gear to house them with. And yeah, very sore hands, eh, Gary?
Yeah, I think I've got RSI from stretching wire on the frames. So
OS, overuse syndrome or something.
Yes, the next day I had to spend the day building boxes instead of frames.
Yeah.
Not good.
That's interesting, yeah. So, and we've basically sold out of many of our products. So we're reordering all those things in. So watch this space.
Absolutely. And the other thing that's happening this weekend is across New Zealand, there's the TPPA Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, which a lot of people are not happy with, and I think it's not very good either. There's a lot of protests around all over New Zealand, and there's some details on our podcast page about that if you want to go along. It's on the 8th of November, which I think is the Saturday. This Saturday it is.
This Saturday or next?
This Saturday when this podcast comes out, because it's coming out next Thursday.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry.
You got to remember, you got to be thinking in the future.
Oh, it's very scary.
Anyway, let's get off that tangent. And I was recently interviewed on the Treatment-Free Beekeeper, which is Solomon Parker's podcast, and that was quite interesting. I had a good time talking to Solomon about beekeeping and his bees. I mean, we're not strictly treatment-free, but I guess we'd call ourselves organic, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
We definitely don't. We definitely treat the bees when they need it, but we don't use chemical pesticides.
You mean synthetic, man-made, created concoctions that cause resistance in the Varroa destructor mite?
That's it.
Okay.
We try and try and use organic methods, and it's working really well. And so, what have you been doing, Margaret?
I just wanted to know 3 things that you picked up when you were being interviewed.
Okay.
About Solomon.
3 things I picked up. He's very interested in movies. And
okay. B movies or
any movies?
Any
Because we
movies.
talked about The Hobbit for quite a bit.
Oh, okay.
And
everyone should be interested in that.
I know, and I told him that was yeah. You have to listen to it. There's some funny bits in it actually. I told him about the orcs running around, and he was a bit scared about that.
Yeah.
And we've actually interviewed Solomon as well, so he's going to be on a future podcast as well. And
so lots coming up,
learn.
guys. So check it out.
Yeah, and we'll have some more about that coming up in the future.
Okay.
About some interesting guests we have been talking to.
Yes.
Listen later on in the show to hear some interesting names. I think so.
Well, I must say that after, we've learned a lot from a lot of the guys and girls that we've interviewed over time, and I think it really shows you what an intelligent bunch of people we are in terms of beekeeping and our passion for the bees and nature. And I think that one of the concerns is that you were talking about this TPPA thing, is that we want to be self-determined and self-strong, I think, as Kiwis or New Zealanders, and that protest is all about what I believe is undermining that. So, Kiwis fight back against TPPA corporate trap. So, International
Absolutely.
Day of Action.
And there's meetings all over. Hamilton, Auckland, Raglan, Tauranga, Levin.
Yeah.
Everywhere, really.
It's really good to see people passionate about trying to keep Kiwi, because a lot of the new strategies that are being presented to the government and which they're embracing are basically about economics, and it appears to me that it's undermining the way we do what we do, and we have done successfully. And you made an interesting point that if we sold ourselves to the world as this organic country, we could do it, and we would be very successful.
I think so, yep. And I think there's countries around the world are also protesting about this. It's just not New Zealand, so it's a global initiative. Awesome.
And, if you care about New Zealand and keeping our strength and our Kiwi spirit or our Kiwi mana, go along and let your feelings be known, and let the government know that it's not about being against what the government wants. It's about being for what we Kiwis have worked hard for.
And I think the most disturbing thing is a lot of the details about this agreement are still secret, and we don't even know what they are yet. So it's going to be, I think the government should be telling people what's in this agreement.
Yeah, considering one of their obligations is to be transparent. Anyway, moving right along.
Right along, and
okay.
So you've been busy doing beginner kits?
Oh, yeah, I've been up to quite a bit lately. We've had a huge amount of our busy beekeepers who love having their bees and, want to make sure they're healthy, who've been booking me for the DECA or the AFB recognition checks for their sign-offs, and well done to you guys for keeping up on that and being so proactive this year. Last year everyone was a bit late, but this year everyone's really onto it, so well done. And I found just awesomely healthy hives and, really dedicated beekeepers and just awesome guys, and the proof's in the pudding that these colonies have survived winter and are starting to really build up. So in New Zealand, we are building up to big colonies. We've already had the multiple swarms. There's been queen cells. We also had, as we probably talked about previously, an AFB find, and that was very sad. But the whole idea of us doing this is so that we keep on top of it and educate and teach people to do their disease checks and begin to take responsibility for looking after their hives.
That's awesome. And we've sold out a few products already.
Yeah, we've had this year, we ordered in extra stocks of our frames and boxes and everything, and we've sold out of some of the boxes, and we've got some more coming in, and yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It means that everyone's really ahead of the game because we haven't even hit summer yet, and I think if it ever stops raining, we'll probably have a good summer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been very wet, hasn't it, the last couple of weeks? Very wet in Auckland.
It's made, because in our particular apiary, the bees have been really slow to build up, and I had a failing hive which I fed sugar syrup with thyme, and they are coming along really well, and another one that was actually doing really well and then just appeared to be the population dropped, and I don't really know what happened. I don't think they swarmed because I couldn't find any queen cells, and they appeared, to be now really building up again. So they're all doing really well, and the next job that I have is to inspect to make sure that they have enough brood so I can start my artificial splits or artificial swarming. So that's for all our beginner kits, and
it's got you been busy delivering stuff around Auckland.
Yeah, it's been full on. And the thing that we've been doing is the apiary. The apiary is getting very tall again, so I've got to get all that cleaned up for the for our new arrivals, which are coming in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and we've got a practical day for your course as well, soon?
Yeah, we had to cancel because of the weather, and it has been particularly bad the last few weeks, and even last night, there was like huge thunderstorms and lightning. Rain. It was really, really, it was weird because I could see the stars up in the sky and the moon, but yet there was thunder and lightning, and it was just bizarre.
Yeah.
But it calmed down today, but the wind has been pretty bad, and the bees, I was watching them, they were trying to get into the hives and they're getting blown around everywhere. So,
yeah, it's been pretty windy.
Yeah, so we've also been given some lovely resources from our customers, and these customers have bees that they bought from us, and that they're happy for us to split their hives so that we can keep having that same genetics. So that's been really awesome and very generous, and we're very grateful for that.
Yes, indeed. Thanks very much, guys. It's been awesome. Shall we go into blog recap?
Yep.
Ooh.
Ow.
Oh. Sorry about that.
Gary just assaulted me, everyone.
With the mic. Oh, we'll cut that out. Okay, let's...
Yeah, cut it out, Gary.
Blog recap. Okay, blog recap. This is where we talk about the last 3 blog posts or podcasts that were very popular. And number 1, Ashley Robinson, Thymol treatment for varroa mites. This has been very popular, eh? It's been an interesting idea, and I think a lot of people are interested in listening to hear how she's going with it. So that has been good.
Yeah, there's been quite a few conversations that we've had recently about Thymol, and Thymol is actually a concentrate of the thyme plant oil.
Yeah.
And one of the hives that we gave the sugar feed to, we put a lot of fresh thyme in it, and that hive had the lowest count of varroa. So that was really awesome to see. So I reckon that she's onto something with this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So she'll, listen to that one.
Yeah, take a listen to that, guys, because it is worth it. Absolutely.
Yep, cool. And the next one is moving beehives a short distance. This was a short blog post I wrote. Get that joke?
Yeah, short. Yeah.
Anyway.
The distance between moving them and the beehive?
That's it. Well, it's just because a lot of people ask us about, I just want to move my beehive to the, around to the next garden or next, down the road or just across the garden or something. Because especially people in suburban houses, and they go, I don't want to have to move it away for 3 miles and wait for 3 weeks and stuff.
Well, I mean, just explain what the 3 mile thing is.
Well, there's a popular saying that you have to move a beehive 3 feet a day, or you move it 3 miles and then move it back after a few weeks. And this is a kind of a myth that's been going around, and that's been going around for a long time. But this method we discovered is quite good. It just means you basically can move your hive across your garden a lot quicker. So have a check out that blog post, guys.
Yeah, because this is a really easy thing to do, and often when you're doing splits as well, you can use some of these methods on that because it just gives the bees a chance to reorientate themselves and do their flight to check what's changed. So it's all about creating a change in the environment for the bees, and they will pick it up really quickly.
Yep, that's it. So check that blog post out for the secret to that. And the third one is a guest blog post from Nick Jordan from England, and he he did a course with Phil Chandler, or otherwise known as the Barefoot Beekeeper, and he did a top bar hive beekeeping course there. So he's written a really cool article about that, and it's been very popular.
Awesome.
And yeah, that was awesome. So thank you, Nick, if you're listening. That's great. Well, I know you're listening, so that's good. Thanks for listening, and thanks for the article. And if anyone out there has an interesting thing to talk about in beekeeping and wants to do a blog post for the KM058 blog, get in touch because we're keen to listen to different ways that you guys are keeping your bees and things you're up to.
Yeah, we love to hear from you, and that's the thing that, with all our different microclimates, there may be methods that you're using that other people who are having the same issue or, success would love to hear from you in terms of how you're doing what you're doing and why you're successful.
Exactly. Let's move into the KM058 news. Beekeeping news from around the world and New Zealand.
I've got some news.
What's your news?
My news is that in the North Shore of Auckland, the bees in the urban environment are doing exceptionally well, and the proof is in the pudding. A lot of them have got huge populations and are doing really well with heaps and heaps of honey. So I think that there is definite merit to keeping bees in an urban environment. It's particularly in New Zealand where, Auckland in particular is 85% green areas for the bees to forage on. So, yeah.
Exactly. Well, this next article could be a good idea for keeping bees on the side of apartment buildings.
Yeah, that's for sure. And that all beekeepers become, what are they called?
Mountaineers.
Yeah, those people who...
abseilers.
Abseilers and all sorts, yeah.
That's right. This is a story from China, and it's beekeepers tend hundreds of hives on a cliffside in the Hebei province of China. And these photos are incredible, aren't they? There's like thousands of beehives on the side of a cliff. I think it's
Hubei province in China.
Hubei province, sorry if everyone in China.
I pity those. It must be friggin' difficult to manage your bees.
It would be, but it'd be good exercise, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah. They say beekeeping is a great way to keep fit, and I think if you moved to China and you started doing their beekeeping methods, I think you'd really become really fit.
I think
Have
you would.
a look at these photos,
Yeah,
guys, because it looks amazing, and I think I think it could be a bit extreme, but
I think the reason why they've done what they've done is because they keep the bees at, the ones that the Nepal honey hunters, they climb up on the side of a mountain to cut the comb off. I think these bees are similar to those ones, so they're trying to make their environment as natural as they can.
Oh, that's good. It's in a nature reserve anyway.
Yeah, so and so they're keeping the bees on the side of a cliff. It's really interesting. So have a look at those photos. That was an article from the BBC. I know the Guardian in England. So check it out. There's some great photos there.
Yeah, brave souls, that's for sure.
Yeah, imagine if you left something behind, like, I've left my smoker.
Oh, I dropped my frame holder.
Yeah, I bet there's thousands of frame holders at the bottom of the cliff that nobody can be bothered picking up.
Indeed.
You'd have to tie everything to your belt.
Absolutely.
Anyway, the next story is surprisingly simple reason why millions of bees are dying, and this is a report from the Washington Post about bee decline, and they're saying that that's probably caused by neonicotinoids. And we are actually talking to Tom Fairbold this weekend, a long-time campaigner against this class of pesticide. And so this is an interesting article. It's got some good overviews of recent studies. And, yeah, I don't know. The jury's out, isn't it? Because we talked to Randy Oliver, and he thinks that they're just as bad as other pesticides, and I agree. And I don't know if they're the cause, but it's be interesting to talk to Tom this weekend, won't it?
Yeah, I think that I found it quite interesting, should I say, maybe a little bit weird, that the fact that these pesticides are being discounted as causing any issues to bees, and that it's actually the varroa mite that's causing the issues. Now, my question is that if the bees aren't healthy, or their immune system's been undermined, then if they don't get enough food, a variety of food, then they will be more susceptible for varroa. So it's kind of like the chicken thing, which came first. And I believe that the only reason the varroa is so successful is because the bees are not getting enough food, they're getting poisoned, and they've got toxic environment to deal with. So these people who are doing all these studies and everything, there's an argument for and there's an argument against. And I think my question would be, in my view, to follow the money trail.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what Tom's got to say. It's going to be interesting. That'll be coming up in the future. Yeah,
and I feel myself having empathy with what he's saying.
Well, he's kind of painting quite a grim picture of the beekeeping in America, so that's going to be intriguing to, because we've talked about getting an interview, and he sort of said, what did he say? He said, I have a bleak view of beekeeping, because I think he was trying to think we were trying to be positive. But, we'll see.
He has, in saying that, he's not the only one who feels that way.
Oh, no, I
know. And they're talking about, on the news today here in New Zealand, they were talking about seagulls, the common seagull, and how the seagull population has dropped 80% in the last 30 years. And, people saying, oh, who cares, it's only a seagull, they're just flying rats or something. But in reality, if the environment is affecting them, and they're quite a strong bird in a lot of ways, then it must be affecting all the other gentler native birds and everything like that.
Well, like microbes and,
Yeah, and rubbish and bad food and, the whole thing. So...
Well, if you listen to the Hank Tenicus podcast we did, he's kind of saying there is a break in the food chain, so... caused by pesticides. So I think it's quite scary. So we'll
agree.
keep you posted on this, guys. And the next story, which is pretty state the obvious, really. A study in France has confirmed what beekeepers probably already know in New Zealand, that varroa mites can spread diseases around hives. This is causing diseases like deformed wing virus to be spread much quicker. And this has been done by the Otago University as a PhD student, Fanny Mondit, from the University Ecology Department of France, in France. So, I mean, this is to say that the varroa mite sucks on the bee's blood and then obviously goes to another bee and spreads viruses that way. So things like deformed wing virus, which have been in the country a long time, are spreading a lot quicker within a hive because the varroa mites are spreading diseases.
Yeah, and I think there's some merit to this because parasitic mite syndrome's quite a lot more common than when we first started beekeeping, eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that, you know, we also need to be aware that we need to keep a diverse amount of food for the bees and not just put them in monoculture situations. They need to have a variety of food. It's like any living thing. If you just eat one thing all the time, you will not be healthy. Bees need a variety of food.
But I could survive on chocolate.
Indeed.
Just kidding.
Okay.
And, well, I think it's interesting that when you put that thyme with the sugar syrup, that hive bounced back a lot. So I think there's definitely merit to that. And I think, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and we need to have, especially I think here in New Zealand, in Auckland, and a lot of the cities around, is that there's a big exotic amount of food, you know, exotic plantings, not native plantings, but exotic plants available in some of the cities. So I think that's why a lot of those urban bees are doing so well, because they're getting a big variety. So just long may that continue. And
they're really getting strong, eh? It's awesome.
And no boundaries on that, Auckland Council.
Maybe we should move our bees to urban areas.
Well, I mean, it's a possibility.
Absolutely. And the next story is vicious sting that's hurting all of us. This is a great article about the massive amount of wasps that are taking over environments down the line, and it's even changing the ecology of some forest areas. And scientists and researchers are working on solutions to kill the wasps in their nests using mites and toxins. And I've just said here, let's hope these are bee safe, and it's their that is their underlining criteria according to the article, so they're actually keeping aware of that. So I'm hoping that's true. Comments?
There's a really good paragraph in this which I'd like to read.
Okay.
Okay, wasps have become New Zealand's most damaging invertebrate pest. They hurt the honey industry by attacking hives, displace bees from honeydew, beech forests, disrupt vineyard pollination, imperil logging work in forests, compete with native birds and animals for food, and have been observed killing chicks. Between 2010 and last year, the ACC, which is our Accident Compensation Corporation, which deals with injury that you sustain, dealt with 4,160 claims arising from wasp attacks.
They're just terrible.
The last person to die from a wasp attack was Morris Robert Stretch. He was 62 years old, and he had a heart attack after being stung hundreds of times in the Marlborough Sounds in our South Island in 2012. And at least 2 deaths in Auckland between 1985 and 2005 were blamed on wasps. Now, I just don't understand why the government letting go Department of Conservation staff and not dealing with this. This is just awful, and we had so many losses this year.
From wasps, yeah. They are. I think they are becoming a bigger problem around the country, eh? So that's why we're going to try and track down their nests, and we're also developing a trap as well. So we'll keep you guys posted about that. That's a new experiment we're doing, and some of our experiments are good, and some of them are failures. But this I think the tracking of them is going to be good, because we both watched a video the other day about beelining, didn't we, from this guy in America?
Yeah, that is interesting. Another comment that I just want to read out too is the beelining is one way to find the nest, but the problem is that there are so many now, and they are becoming extremely invasive, and they are dangerous. And it's interesting that there's also a little paragraph here where it says the problem when Captain James Cook came ashore in 1769, he said he was assailed by deafening birdsong. But anyone who has been in the Nelson Lakes National Park beach forest recently knows the drone of invasive wasps has drowned out the chatter of native birds. Now that to me is just an alarm bell ringing. So why aren't the government doing more?
Yeah, come on, Mr. Government.
Yeah, Mr. Government, get your together.
Get your A into G. And New Zealanders will know what that means. No, I think it's terrible, and I think we need to do something about wasps. So that's why we're developing some ideas. And I will keep you guys informed if they work. And we've got our robbing screens, which I know a lot of people are waiting for those. I've just been so busy with the beginner stuff, so I'll get onto that soon. But they are a little, they're a pain in the Anyway, and the other thing I was going to say is that article...
Sorry about that, I wanted to hit you back with my microphone, you know.
Oh, okay.
What
do you want to hit me for?
Because you hit me before.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, one of the things that I thought was good in the article, it said about the trapping of the wasps, sorry. They, if you've got a trap full of wasps, it all looks very good, but the real key is to get their nests, because the queen's back at home just producing more and more worker wasps.
Yeah, and I think the best time for that is just before spring hits. We put out tarpaulins and we just put them on the ground, and the wasp queens go in there and hibernate, and we do that at the end of...
winter.
Just before the end of winter and early, I think autumn was the best time to put them out, and then over winter they went into the tarpaulins. We just scrunched it up on the ground, and we got about 30 queen wasps. So that's 30 colonies effectively that we've, foiled. So, little things like that, guys, give it a try. I know you'll find it very beneficial. And then because they're still in that hibernation mode, you'll be able to squish them.
Absolutely. Or even maybe, pay your kids to go and find these queens. But it's now it's full-blown colonies, so I wouldn't recommend getting kids involved to step near them.
Yeah, it might
they
be
can
a bit
be quite dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. And because the wasps go into the ground, you don't want the kids to perhaps stumble across one.
Yes, because it was that lady Janet Keillard, a while back, and she stood in one and the ground gave way and she got like 150 stings, so she was lucky to survive, really. Yes. Awful, and we'll keep you guys posted. If you've got any good ideas for wasps, please comment on kiwimana.co.nz/58. What do you...
Can I just
What do you do to get rid of wasps?
Well, I spoke to a beekeeper today who is living in the urban environment, and he has offered to his neighbours that if they see any wasps around, he'll come around at no charge and help them to find the wasp nest, and he will kill it.
Cool.
And that's something that it's a neighbourly thing, and I think it's awesome. So well done. You know who you are, so keep up that good work.
Absolutely. Great stuff there. Maybe you can give me some tips. And next new story. New all-natural pesticide unveiled by scientists, and it won't kill bees. Well, it sounds good. News from the UK about a potentially safe pesticide made from spider venom, which could be an alternative to neonicotinoids, but if swallowed, may turn you into Spider-Man.
That's it. I mean, everyone wants to have the red and black suit.
Well, everyone wants to be able to stick on walls. That bit was added by us. No,
that was ad-libbed.
Good news on the honeybee front. A team of scientists in the UK have created a biospecticide made from spider venom and plant protein that may provide hope for the endangered pollinators.
It's interesting. Yeah, it is interesting, but they also say that in the first week, you just read the first paragraph, it talks about that there was some effects on them after that first week, but they were saying it didn't harm the queen or the...
Oh, yeah, it doesn't harm the brood, eh?
Yeah. So, I think, and they talked about in that other article about wasps, and there's a mite that they are looking at that only affects the wasp, but I think that all of these things need to be properly checked out before they are introduced, and this biopesticide sounds like the way to go, but yeah, continue testing, I reckon, because we need to make sure it isn't going to have any long-term effect, and that's one of the reasons why Bayer got away with what they did, because they only tested it for a few days and they said there was no long-term effect, but they didn't do it colony, after the season and in the new season. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, I think this sounds positive, and hopefully it's true, and it should, we'll see some commercial products using it. It'll be quite good.
I hope so, because the thing is that it's non-toxic, so that's definitely a plus in the first instance, but I don't understand how snake venom could be non-toxic.
Well, I mean, where do they get snake venom from? I mean, how much can you get?
You can easily get it. I've seen shows where they have a jar with a bit of paper over it or something, or gauze or something, and then they hold the snake and they put its fangs on top of this jar, and it excretes the venom and it goes into the jar. So I presume that this might be along the same line.
Interesting. Well, we'll keep an eye on that and see what comes of it. It's called HV1A/GNA.
And I say good on you guys for looking down this road for finding something that's going to be, nothing long-term harmful.
Absolutely. And that's an article from the naturalnews.com site. And here's another story from the greatest country in the world.
Woohoo! Yay!
That's New Zealand for everyone that doesn't know. Anyway, Central Otago beekeepers are giving nature and bees a hand. This is a great story from Mary Jo Tohill about beekeeping in the Central Otago region, which is in our South Island of New Zealand, and some great bee facts. And did you know, Margaret, that bees bring $5.1 billion to the New Zealand economy every year? Isn't that impressive?
I thought it was more than that.
No, that's
because
what they
contribute.
say.
They also contribute to other products. So not only is it about honey production, it's about pharmaceuticals, it's about skincare, it's about, bee pollens and everything like that.
Manuka honey?
Yeah. It's aside from the Manuka honey side of things, it's to do with capturing pollen as a health food.
Yes,
all those
indeed.
kind of things. So there's a wide impact on keeping our bees alive, and we need to make sure we're doing it, and this is an awesome thing to hear.
Absolutely. Well, let's have a little musical interlude and we'll come back with questions from you. Questions from you. This is a section of the podcast where we answer questions from you. That's right, you, right there listening.
Well, I've been asked a question.
Is it on my list?
No.
Okay, ad-lib bit.
Ad-lib bit.
What's the question, Margaret?
The question is why monitor my hive?
Monitor your hive? As in for mites, or just monitor it for weight?
Just everything. Just everything. Why monitor your hive?
Okay, do you want to answer that?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much. Actually, this question's actually in line with some things that we've had to do with our beekeeper services, and we offer services to help people manage their bees, and one of the issues is about how you regularly, how often do you manage your hive, how many times do you inspect it, and that kind of thing. Well, I got an email today from a lady who had some bees from us, and she has said, and I quote, "Thank you so much for the well done. I really appreciate it, as we've been working really hard loving our bees. But I must say those 10 to 14 day checks really do pay off." So this is a new beginner who has understood the importance of really keeping an eye on learning how your bees do what they do. And in that first season, when you have your new colony, you need to learn things as you go along, rather than think of the long-term things, is that do the regular checking, and the time to start doing it is when, Gary? All year
constantly
round.
Yeah, because you want to make sure the mites aren't gaining hold on the hive and not taking over.
Yeah, so monitoring is a real key thing, and having an integrated pest management program, you should be aware of what that is. You should be aware of what's normal and get to know your hive, and then from there you'll know when things are not normal. So that's
Absolutely.
why you monitor. So
yes.
that's why you monitor.
Yeah, well, that's part of, you've got to monitor all the time. Absolutely, I agree. And that reminds me, we've got to do a video about how to do a sugar shake. We've had a lot of requests for that, so we must get it.
I know.
And now we've got our fancy new camera that was on special.
Fancy smancy, all right.
Oh, it's fantastic, isn't it?
She's a little beauty, and the close-up lens is just awesome.
We took some pictures of some wood pigeons stripping Margaret's tree the other day.
Yeah, around the property we've got this tree called the Kofi tree, and it's a beautiful New Zealand native, and it produces a beautiful yellow flower, and in spring it starts to produce new green leaves, and the wood pigeon, who we call affectionately Woody, he loves eating that, and it was really good. Are you going to release that?
Yeah, I think I will. Well, if we do release it before this podcast comes out, we'll include it in the show notes, which will be KM058. Yeah, we'll release that. It's quite good.
Yeah.
And I like it.
And I think Gary's a star.
I'm not even in it. You're in it.
I mean, you're a star producer.
Oh.
Star producer of content, so well done you.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's move on to the question from you. So here's the question. We are finding that our bees are laying on top of the frames. So when we take the top super off, it's usually stuck to the super below with larvae, etc. Is this normal, or are we doing something wrong? Thanks, Deb.
Okay. Do you want to make a comment, or can
I've got a comment. Well,
let's both make a comment. You make yours first.
Well, the thing is, there's a thing that you've got to observe in beehives, which is called bee space, which has been defined by Langstriff as 6.35 to 9.53 apparently. And anything up over that, they will start laying brace comb or laying eggs and stuff, like making comb. Anything below that, apparently, they will start propylizing. So you've really got to make sure that the space between the top of the bottom frame and the top frame is that much. So you've got to make sure your boxes are the right sizes, and that's what I've actually replied to Debbie already, and I've told her that. So that's what you've got to be careful of. Just make sure that the distance between the top and the bottom of the frame above it, is not more than, say, like 6 to 7 mils. What would your comment be?
I've been doing quite a few inspections that are in some of these really prolific hives, and there were some that were so stuck together, so they were plastic frames. They had done about 2 inches of brood in between the boxes, and when I tried to lift the frame up, the other box underneath got lifted up at the same time, so they were really stuck together.
Yeah.
And my comment is that there wasn't enough space, and people often at the beginning of a season or, at the end of winter, they think if they just pop a box on the top that will be okay. And unfortunately, what happens is that they are not removing frames that are full of honey and moving them up to create more space. So that's another thing to keep an eye out, that when you add more space, it's not just plopping a box on the top. It's about moving the frames out and creating that illusion for the bees that they haven't done that work. So they concentrate on keep filling those frames. So that's part of your monitoring. And the other thing with that bees laying on top of the frames, it was mostly drone brood that we found there.
It's probably because the frames have got a lot of the frames. Was it plastic frames?
Yeah.
Okay, so all the plastic frames have got foundation, which is for worker size. So there's not those hives are generally starved of locations where they can put drone brood, and so that's where you really need to either provide them a drone management frame, or provide them an empty frame that they can use to put drones in. Otherwise, they will put drones wherever they can fit them, because a normal hive, they have a constant population of drones they want to maintain, which I think is about, is it 10 to 15% or something, or a bit higher than that?
Yeah, no, I think that's about right.
So they're always striving to have that population of drones, so they're going to try and find spaces to put them in. And if they find a space between the frames, because they'll use it.
Well, that's good. That's really good information, because I think that drones are also the other area where you get your varroa issues. So cleaning the top of your frames and the bottom of your frames is really important when you do that monitoring.
Yeah.
So it's all part of that. So yeah, thanks very much for that question, Deb.
No worries.
Yeah.
And the other thing to be noted is sometimes plastic frames are slightly smaller than wooden frames?
Yeah,
I think?
that there was some quite big gaps in the boxes.
Yeah.
And you can see that the bees are just filling whatever space they can. So yeah.
Yeah,
it's a combined approach, eh? It's like,
yeah, you just got to do
several things to help the bees manage what is going on.
Well, I know when we build boxes, I put the frame and I measure it, so it's less than 6 or 7 mils. So then we shouldn't get a lot of brace comb underneath those frames, because the bees like to have walkways, so that's why they don't build comb in those areas.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks, Deb, for your question. That's awesome, and we'll move on to the next question. What sort of quantity of AFB is there in this area, and is it a significant problem in the Waitakeries? And that's one question. And then, what are the chances of getting it within the coming year or two? This is from Chris, who lives in our area, and he recently did your course, didn't he? Yes.
Very, very good question. Really is a good question, and the answer to that is, what sort of quantity of AFB is there in this area? Well, there's lots.
Well, we've only had one case, haven't we, personally? I don't know, have you heard any of other cases?
Well, we personally have had no cases where
ones that we've found from people's hives,
Okay, let's get this clarified. In this area, there has been reported AFB in our area here in the Waitakeries, and we have, through our DECA, have established AFB in colonies in surrounding areas as well. So it is significant, and it needs to be really monitored, and that's one of the key things that we talk about in the course, is that you need to be aware of what AFB is and the chances of getting it. What's your view on that one?
Well, there's not really a lot you can do about it.
Anyone can get it.
It's not bad beekeeping. It's just bad luck, really. And the fact that, well, you could say that it could be bad beekeeping on the person that got it originally and doesn't ever check their hive, and then they, leave their hive to die out and they never know why it died. That's bad beekeeping. But the actual person that's diligently checking their hive every few weeks or every month or every couple of weeks, and they discover AFB, it's not their fault, is it?
No, I think probably AFB can turn up in any colony, but the thing that has to be addressed is how you manage your beekeeper hygiene, because beekeeper hygiene, I think, is one of the main causes for seeing the spread of this awful, it's just awful,
Disease, yeah.
Awful disease. And I think that beekeeper hygiene is something that a lot of people need to understand why you do it. And I get, I am very over the top with it, but I don't think it's unrealistically so.
No, I don't think so. And I think if you're taking your suit and your gloves and you're working on someone else's bees, and like if you're going to help a friend or something, you've got to really make sure you clean everything off and make sure there's no spores on you and things like that. I think it's not a stupid idea.
Well, the best way to deal with it really is to not take your gear.
Yeah.
I mean, I will take my suit, I will bleach it, and I will spray my boots, and I will wear gloves, and I wear bags on my feet, and I will even spray with that. And then when I've finished, I spray my suit when I'm finished with a bleach spray, and I don't think it's over the top at all. I think if you're going to go to someone else's apiary, that you can do them the utmost respect by having clean boots, by having a clean suit. Don't wear gloves. If you've got propolis on your gloves, wear gloves.
And never bring your hive tool.
Yeah, and otherwise the beekeeper themselves has the gear available for you to use. So you're not bringing anything to that colony or that apiary and perhaps risking the spread of it, because beekeeper hygiene is something that causes the spread of the spores.
Absolutely, I agree. Well, if you've got any questions, people can write to question@kiwimana.co.nz or drop us a line.
Don't forget.
What? To
get your Deca checks done before when?
Isn't it the end of November?
Yep.
So if you need a Deca check, either get in touch with us or a other person with a Deca if you're not in the Auckland area.
Yeah. Make sure you've got someone experienced who's going to sort that out for you, and if they come over, let them use your gear.
Absolutely, and if they come over and they're from Kiwimana, give them a chocolate biscuit.
Chocolate biscuits. Nice cup of tea. Earl Grey, please, with lots of milk.
Indeed.
Not that I'm fussy or anything.
Yeah, really?
What were you going to say?
Nothing. Okay, let's have a musical bumper, and then we're going to talk about blog posts coming soon. Okay, blog posts coming soon. These are blog posts that are coming soon. And recently we talked to Cliff Van Eaton about his new book, Manuka, the biography of an extraordinary honey. And we also talked to him about Manuka honey, and that was really, really interesting. And I had a great time talking to Cliff. And he knows the guy that actually discovered that Manuka honey is good. He's actually the scientist that worked it out. So that was interesting. And he's actually offered our listeners a 15% discount on his latest book. So you just visit the publisher's website, which will be in the show notes, and type Kiwimana into the coupon code at checkout for a 15% discount. And when that podcast comes out, he's giving away one free copy of the book to one of our lucky listeners.
Gosh, be in to win, guys.
Yeah,
it's an awesome book.
There'll be a question within the podcast that you have to find out, and you can drop us a line. I'm really enjoying that book. I think it's fantastic. It's almost like a history of honey.
Awesome. New Zealand honey or honey?
all over the world, and it's it's predominantly about New Zealand honey, but it talks about Mary Bumby and how she brought her 2 skeps across from England. It took us 6 months to get here.
Oh my God!
I think and
that's pretty significant. Period of time.
Well, I mean, how keen is that for a beekeeper to look after hives for 6 months? on a boat,
Awesome.
on a rocky boat.
I don't know how she did it.
She was a brave lady.
Yeah, I reckon.
So that book is really good. I really encourage everyone to grab a copy if you can, or check out your local library, or if you want to buy one, make use of this 15% discount, guys, because that's a really good discount. And
it's well worth it. It's well worth the read, and it's well worth gaining that kind of knowledge as well.
Yeah, and I think the other thing about the book is it's not really scientific. It's not a scientific book, and it's not written specifically for beekeepers. It's written for everybody. So, you know what I think? I think this would be an awesome book for someone's Christmas present. If they love honey, or they love reading
history.
A bit of history, and they love honey. And if they're beekeepers, they'd probably really like it. But I mean, anyone I think would love this book.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
So keep that in mind, guys, for a good Christmas present for the Manuka lovers in your life. And we also chatted with Randy Oliver recently from California, and that was really interesting as well. I really liked that talk. And he's got some great ideas, and he's an organic beekeeper from California, and he keeps, I think it's 300 hives or 3,000 hives or something. It's quite a lot.
Yeah.
And
he was quite inspirational for us when we first started beekeeping, eh? So,
yeah, because he was talking at the MBA conference in Auckland, wasn't he? Remember, ages and ages ago?
Okay, I thought he was. We met him through the Auckland Bee Club. Set up a whole lot of lectures.
He did, but remember he was also talking at the MBA, the hobbyist day at the Bee Club.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was really good. Yeah, I think he's got some great ideas.
Yeah.
Some controversial ideas and some good ideas. But you'll hear about that soon. Anyway, let's move on to feedback from you guys.
That was very short.
Very short? Do it again.
Do it again. Very nice. Very nice, that one.
Very nice.
Okay,
got to make some
Moving
more,
along.
Okay, feedback from you guys. This is where we talk about your feedback, and this has come from you, so we really appreciate you taking time to send us the stuff, because then we know why we're doing what we're doing, and we really appreciate it. Oh, I really think that when we get these reviews on iTunes or feedback and emails, I think it really makes us think, wow, what are we spending all these hours and hours doing this for? And I think it's awesome. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we do, and we know it takes time for you to do that, and we do appreciate that. And the thing is, too, that we learn stuff as well, because it's making us aware of what you're thinking and what you're doing. So, yeah, keep it coming, guys.
Absolutely. So the title of this is The Bee's Knees, Ink's First Little One. This is the guy's name. 5 stars from Great Britain.
Woohoo! Yay!
He highly recommends the podcast to all beekeepers. The format is very good and relaxed in true Kiwi style.
Yay!
Gary and Margaret have covered a wide range of topics which will interest the novice and also more experienced beekeepers. Oh, that's nice.
That's really lovely feedback, isn't it?
And he likes the format, especially the slot about bee news items, and also enjoys hearing what is going on at the hives at Kiwimana HQ.
Cool.
And the presenters have a good sense of humour. He must be talking about me. And Margaret's little tangents off what? Paste? Are amusing. They have interviewed some interesting international guests and also local beekeepers. Well, thanks very much, Ink's First Little One. Thanks for listening to the show, and we really love your review. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and all the way from Great Britain, and it just makes it so worthwhile. Absolutely.
We'll have some more interviews with people from England soon as well.
And who's this? Bob
02771. That's a funny name.
5 stars from the United States of America.
Yep, I'm a regular listener and look forward to new episodes. I enjoy all the guests, and I like how Gary and Margaret pronounce the letter Z.
Z. NZ.
Yeah, because I think do they say
Zealand?
Z? We say Z.
Z, isn't it?
Yep, NZ.
NZ, yeah.
Thanks, Bob. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
Yeah, we love our accents,
and we love to pronounce.
Yep, absolutely.
Our Kiwimana, Kiwi spirit.
Exactly.
Oh no, we really appreciate that, Bob, and 5 stars. That's fantastic.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And if you want to leave a review, guys, it's kiwimana.co.nz/iTunes, and we'd really appreciate that. And our contact details, our website is kiwimana.co.nz, and you can email us at info@kiwimana.co.nz.
And don't forget to sign up for our free newsletter, which comes out twice a month. Yep. And is available to anybody, anywhere in the world who has the interweb available to them.
Yep, and that's probably you because you're listening to us on the interweb.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really awesome, and you can sign up to our newsletter by going to our blog or going to kiwimana.co.nz/sign up.
Oh, and don't forget that check us out for any of your beekeeping supplies. If you want to get some Kiwi hive tools and you're over in America, we've got fantastic products that are made here in New Zealand, and we can send them over as we have done. And yeah, don't forget that gear, and that, you know, we love doing this and we love hearing from you.
We do.
So thank you.
It makes our day when we hear from you guys, and we'd just love you to do one thing for us. Please tell another friend about our podcast.
Yeah,
get them involved.
Share us with your friends.
Absolutely. Anyway, thanks, guys. And the After Hours bonus this week, we've got Rachel Parent all the way from the TED Talks in Toronto. She did talk about GMOs. We listened to this the other day, didn't we?
Yeah,
didn't we? It was good.
She's a young lady with real passion.
Yeah, I think she's only about 13 or 14.
Yeah, I thought she was 15.
Oh, 15 now. But she's been going since she's been about 12 in this GMO campaign. I think it's great. And
I think she's got an instinctual, you know, presence about her, about what's happening in the world. And I think, you know, this young lady absolutely amazes me and inspires.
Absolutely.
So
and she
take a listen to this, guys.
And if you want to listen to her on the podcast, give us a yell, because she's kind of agreed to come on at some point, so we might get her on there. So if you've
That'll be a really good one.
Yeah, if you've got any questions about GMOs or anything she's doing, drop us a line. Anyway, from me, that's thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you next month.
See ya! Woohoo!
Imagine you just got home from school or work and you're starving. It's too early for dinner, so you grab a bag of corn chips and start munching. As you reach into the bag to grab another chip, you notice something on the package label. New and improved, now made with genetically engineered corn. Your first thought is, wow, science is awesome. This corn must have more nutrients, or maybe it can be grown with less water, or something equally as cool, right? If only that was true. What if I told you that this corn was not engineered to taste better, or to give you more nutrients, or to be grown with less water, or to grow faster, but instead was engineered to have its own internal insecticide? You know, a chemical that would rupture the stomachs of bugs when they tried to eat the corn? Sound like a tasty after-school snack to you? But don't worry. You may never see this kind of information on your packages of corn chips. Because although this insecticide corn is being used in more than 70% of the processed food on our shelves, the companies who engineered it are spending millions of dollars to make sure it's never put on the label. Wouldn't you like to see this kind of information on your food labels? I would. My name is Rachel Parent. I'm 15 years old, and I've been creating awareness about GMOs, or genetically modified organisms, since I was 12. So, if we've been eating GMOs for the last 20 years, what's the big deal? Many scientists say that GMOs are nothing to worry about. I'm not a scientist. But somehow the idea of eating food that contains its own bug killer sounds a bit strange to me. So I decided to learn all I could about these GMOs. Here's what I found. When first created, GMOs were supposed to increase yields, be better for the environment, give us more nutrition, and use less water. Sadly, after 2 decades, this wish has not come true. Corn, canola, soy, and sugar beets. The 4 GM crops that dominate our fields and our food do one of 2 things: create its own internal insecticide, or remain alive after being repeatedly sprayed with pesticides. So, what else has happened in these same 20 years? Global agriculture has made a huge shift. Industrialized farming, monocropping, plants hardwired with pesticides, chemical companies that own seeds, and the lawsuits to defend those patented seeds when they get blown into a neighbor's field. Slowly, I began finding studies that disagreed with the GMOs are awesome studies. Scientists around the world were asking questions and sometimes losing their jobs for asking those questions. It was easy to get confused, though. I mean, which scientist should I believe? Which study was more accurate? Fortunately, it didn't take a scientist to figure things out. Even a 15-year-old can research enough to realize when a corporation pays for or coordinates a study and hires a third party to keep them from looking biased. The more I learned about GMOs, the more I began to wonder about their purpose. And the more I found out about their purpose, the more I began to worry about my future and the future of the planet. So, what is the purpose of genetic engineering? The argument you hear most often is to feed the world. The world already produces more than enough food. The real reason for hunger is poverty, as any global hunger or poverty organization around the world will tell you. When corporations control food, the cost of food goes up, making poverty worse. Another argument you might hear is that GMO crops increase yields. Many studies have proven that GMO crop yields are no better than conventional crops. So, if they aren't increasing yields, and they aren't feeding the world, what are they doing? They are dramatically increasing pesticide use. If you engineer a crop to withstand weed killer, you use weed killer more often because you're not afraid of hurting the crop. If you use weed killer more often, weeds evolve to resist it. But don't worry, the corporations have the answer to superweeds too. They are now engineering corn and soybean to be resistant to 2,4-D. You know, the key ingredient in Agent Orange to kill those huge evolved weeds. Corn chips, anyone? Beneficial insects are being harmed. Monarch butterflies need milkweed. But milkweed is almost gone thanks to all those weed killers. This year, the monarch population is at its lowest point in history. A 90% decline. And the same thing is happening with bees and pesticides all around the world. Other crops are being contaminated too. Seeds are spread by wind, water, bees, and birds. So what happens when these genetically engineered seeds start growing in the field next door? The organic crop gets contaminated. Meanwhile, the organic farmer is held liable to fix the problem, or worse, face a lawsuit for having illegally grown patented seeds in their field. That'd be like you being sued by your neighbor if he spray painted his house purple and some of it blew onto your house. Crazy, right? Nearly 2 decades after GMOs have been introduced into our diet, no long-term human health studies have been conducted. Although many animal feeding studies have been done. A study published by the journal showed that GMOs were actually decreasing yields. Another study showed that GMOs were actually related to allergies. This study was done by the Journal of Pediatrics. They showed food allergies in 1 in 12 children. Is there a connection? Dr. Thierry Vrain, a retired research scientist from Agriculture Canada, speculate that by inserting a foreign gene into the plant, it may be creating a new allergic response. As of today, 64 countries around the world already require mandatory GMO labeling, including the entire European Union, or they outright ban them. Canada and the US are the only two industrialized nations in the world that don't require mandatory GMO labeling. A couple of years ago, I was honored to meet with Dr. Seralini, a professor from the University of Caen, who conducted a 2-year feeding study on rats. The results were sobering. Organ damage, digestive disorders, immune system problems, tumors, even premature death. Other studies resulted in stillbirths and reproductive problems. I was only 11 years old when I first heard the word GMO and started learning all I could about the subject. I watched people purchase large amounts of chips, dips, sodas, and lemonades without ever knowing the ingredients had been genetically modified. That's when I knew I had to do something. But the issue was most Canadians had never heard about GMOs. So I decided to change that. It all started with my speech in grade 6 to inform my classmates. My first speech outside of school was for an environmental event with a huge audience of 12 people, 2 of which were my parents. But that didn't slow me down. I went bigger. I founded a nonprofit organization called Kids Right to Know. Our goal was to inform, educate, and motivate kids to make a difference and to take a stand. Our first Kids Right to Know march was downtown Toronto, November 2012, where I was joined by about 250 kids and parents. The following year, I was able to share my message with more than 3,000 people at my first march against Monsanto, which was pretty awesome. Not too long after, I was watching TV when I saw Kevin O'Leary on the Lang & O'Leary Exchange show. He said anyone who was marching against Monsanto was stupid, and if they didn't like GMOs, they should stop eating. I couldn't let that one go. So I publicly challenged him to a debate. I remember when I found out he accepted. I thought it was great news, but terrifying at the same time. I mean, think about it. A 14-year-old, grade 8 student going up against a very successful 60-year-old businessman known for speaking his mind. This was as David and Goliath as it gets. I have to admit, it was a little nerve-wracking. But in the end, I was happy with the results. Kevin admitted we were all in a long-term study because we've been eating GMOs for 2 decades. And Amanda, his co-host, summed it up by saying, "We are the lab rats." All along, my message has been simple. Just label it. We already label the things we feel are important for us to know. I mean, 50 years ago, we didn't label calories, salt, types of fat, or if it may contain nuts. But now we do. We even label things like made from concentrate, wild or farmed, and country of origin. Not because they're unsafe, but because consumers want to know. Food manufacturers didn't spend millions of dollars trying to hide these labeling changes. And they didn't raise the price of food to change the label. They simply responded to consumer demand and added them. So, why are these same food manufacturers and the biotech corporations telling us that we don't need GMOs labeled? If there's nothing wrong with GMOs, what are they trying to hide from us? To quote Dr. David Suzuki, "Any politician or scientist that tells you these GMO products is safe is either very stupid or lying. I may not be a scientist, and I may not hold a university degree yet. But I believe that we all deserve the right to know what's in our food. And we should all have the freedom to choose what we eat. The solution is simple to me. Just label it. And I hope you all share my vision in leaving the earth better than we found it. We owe this to ourselves and to the many generations yet to come. Thank you.